Welcome to C4 Talks with Garrett and Zeta. Zeta, how you doing this week?
I'm alright.
Great. You and I went on a date a little while ago. We saw The Last Jedi, and about 2 weeks ago, me and Joey did our whole spiel on The Last Jedi, and talked about literally that for about close to 46 minutes. But I know one of your main takeaways was Kylo Ren. And just his character, what you thought about him. I'm really interested in hearing about that. So, Kylo Ren.
He's a little bitch.
Right off the bat, he's a little bitch.
I gotta get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Alright, so obviously, when it comes to movies, I'm not as great at explaining the reasons why, but you helped me point out reasons, so that's good.
I mean, I don't think it's that hard, Kylo Ren.
Oh god. Well, let's start with the part where him and Luke Skywalker are having their showdown.
Mm-hmm.
And Luke Skywalker says something along the lines of,
like, I'm sorry or something.
yeah, I'm sorry I failed you.
Yeah.
And Kylo Ren just gets this look on his face and says, I'm sure you are.
Like a freaking 3-year-old.
And, like, I just honestly, that was, like, poor writing to me. Like, I don't know, something, because
That was really immature.
that was too much. Like, I understand Kylo Ren has a battle going on. He's conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on in his head. He doesn't know if he's good or bad. There's parts of him that are both.
Mm-hmm.
But that was too much.
Yeah. I feel like there were a couple instances throughout, not just this movie. I felt like Force Awakens kind of showcased a lot of that bitchiness too. Yes. The downside to this movie is that I have to see his face more often. It's not a very intimidating. Like, I don't think he's that intimidating. Is my thing about him. Like, the immaturity coupled with the fact that he just doesn't have an intimidation factor about him.
Right.
I get that they're trying to draw like a lot of parallels to like Darth Vader and stuff, and I see it. It's there. Like, there's the same ups and downs, like Anakin being a little bitch, turning over to the dark side.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing with Kylo Ren. But my problem is that when Anakin went to the dark side and became Darth Vader, the bitch stopped.
Yes.
He turned into the dude, like the #1 villain of all time. And to see Kylo Ren, I tried to take over that role, because everybody in the movie is trying to like picture him in that role, and he's just not doing it for me. Like, he has nothing about him that spells I'm intimidating, I'm going to rule the First Order, I'm going to be the guy that takes over the universe. And all I really get from him is he's a guy that will kill me just because he's throwing a temper tantrum. Exactly.
And, like, another thing is just kind of the way he holds himself, how he carries himself. Yeah. It's just, he's like a little depressed teenager.
He's all angsty and shit.
Yeah, he's angsty. He looks like he's not very confident.
Mm-mm.
And, like, you have to be confident to be a good villain.
Mm-hmm.
You really do.
Yeah.
And I will give him a few things. Mm-hmm. Like, when they had when him and Rey teamed up.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
That was pretty badass.
That was a cool fight scene. Yeah. That was a good fight scene.
He's a really good fighter. Give him that.
I like how he killed his master.
That was pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say that Kylo Ren doesn't have his badass moments. But when you stop the badass moments and you look at everything in between, it always seems to me like someone putting on a facade in trying to make everyone else think they're badass.
Right.
Because like I said, in Force Awakens, when you see him just throw a temper tantrum and like destroy a machine or something like that with his lightsaber, or throw a fit because he's not getting his way, in The Last Jedi, he turns immediately into a little bitch in front of his old master. It culminates, like I said, just into someone that doesn't have intimidating factors about him. And the only thing he carries with him is the raw curiosity he brings to the table.
That, and he obviously does have some strength in the Force.
Mm-hmm.
He's talented. He can fight.
Mm-hmm.
He's not my favorite.
He's not my favorite either.
They're going to have to work on him a lot before I enjoy his character.
Maybe that's what they'll do in the third movie. I can't say that it's gonna turn 180 degrees around and suddenly I'm gonna love this character, because I just don't see that happening. Because when I saw Force Awakens and I saw kind of like the bitch in this dude and the kind of the sort of weakling in this guy, I was hoping going into The Last Jedi that would be rectified a little bit, because it seemed like in The Last Jedi trailers that he was going to be playing that more prominent role, that he was going to be more the antithesis to Luke Skywalker,
right,
just based on the trailers. And there was a lot to expect from that role that I was assuming he was going to be playing, that going into The Last Jedi, I can definitively say I was a little disappointed that they were still kind of going with this bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate using the word bitch over and over to describe him, but that's really what it is. He's just someone that lacks confidence in himself.
He's bitching about everything.
He complains about everything. He gets frustrated when he doesn't get his way. It's really, really hard for me to be on his side sometimes because of the way he reacts to stuff.
Right.
It's hard because with someone like Darth Vader, who's stone cold in everything he does and so like dead set confident about something, and goes into shit like, oh, I'm going to do this, that's what's going to happen, that'll be the end of it. And someone like Kylo Ren, who isn't confident at all, is not going to be able to fill that position. Nobody wants to follow a leader that can't lead, that can't show you he's worthy of leadership. Someone that isn't confident in themselves, why would you be confident in them? You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's just the feel I get from Kylo Ren. And I mean, in his defense, the only like true thing I can say in his defense is that the reason for any of that stuff we just got through complaining about was solely because the way the Force works is you have the light and the dark, and the dark, when you're a Sith Lord, it's anger. It's all about the emotions. Anger, love, passion, hate, all that stuff. And Kylo Ren kind of embodies all those emotions to like the most of their capacity, I guess. Now, I don't know if that's what they were intending on doing, because you had people like, God, you had so many other people that were part of the dark side. Like, you had Palpatine, you had Dooku, you had Darth Maul, you had Darth Vader, you had all these other Sith people that even when you had them starting out, even when you had them first show up and first start showcasing their Force powers, their Sith goals, all that stuff, never have I seen someone to this extent act this way. And the only time I ever saw somebody do the same thing similar to this was with Anakin Skywalker. But that most likely is because Anakin Skywalker was a Jedi who was dealing with all these different things, falling in love, finding out he's going to have a child, finding out that his wife is likely to die during childbirth, and then switching to the dark side and betraying everyone he knew. Moving to that point, all of that coalesces into so much emotional turmoil that it kind of makes sense why Anakin would bitch up and just be so confused with all these different emotions he's having. Whereas someone like Kylo Ren, who granted is still trying to make the transition into Sith Lord, like he's still technically an apprentice trying to move his way all the way into the dark side, still, even taking that into consideration, still by the end of The Last Jedi, when it seems like he did take that full step into it, he still had that bitchiness about him. Because like you said, the fight scene with Skywalker at the end, that bitchiness was still prevalent. Because he still was coming face to face with someone, I guess you could say all this emotional turmoil started.
Now I want to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I told you my theory about Luke Skywalker's death.
Mm-hmm.
And I've shared that theory with other people since then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
They think it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I understand what you're saying, how you can't take it for that because it doesn't explain that. It doesn't say that straight up. But I pick up context clues sometimes. And when Luke Skywalker said that he had not been in touch with the Force...
Okay. Explain your theory.
Alright.
Because jumping into this, people not knowing your theory...
That's where I'm going.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Luke Skywalker died because he had not been in touch with the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that because earlier on in the movie, before he died, he told Rey that he had been out of touch, that he had not been using the Force.
That he closed himself off.
He closed himself off from the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did with Kylo Ren, that was a big action. That took a lot of power using the Force. And it may have just been too much for old, out of practice Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
So I am not as upset about his death as a lot of people.
No. I accept your theory. I accept your thought. Me and Joey talked about this last week. I brought up your theory, actually, then explained it to him, told him that the only thing that could make sense as to why he died in that way in the movie, spoiler alert, sorry, was because of the
spoiler alert!
Was because of the theory you proposed. And while I can't disagree with the facts presented or any of the clues, I still came to the conclusion that it was kind of a shitty way to go out. It was kind of a lame-ass way to go out. Because if you think about it, there's different ways this could have gone about. They weren't locked into doing that.
Right.
Because I was even talking about this with my brother the other day. We mentioned it to each other. We saw that Luke had a spaceship. He had a starship. He had a starfighter with him there. Those things, as we've been shown in the past, are capable of light speed travel. So, to me, there's no reason why he couldn't have shown up there. There's no reason he couldn't have actually been there for the fight and actually fought Kylo Ren. And the words, "If you strike me down in anger, I will only haunt you." Like, he'll only make me stronger and I'll haunt you, or whatever. That's similar to the same shit Obi-Wan Kenobi told Darth Vader in A New Hope, where Obi-Wan and Vader were fighting, and Obi-Wan said, "If you strike me down, I will only become stronger." And Vader struck him down, and he disappeared, similar to how Luke did. And I think it would have just been more epic. It would have meant more, I think, because he wasn't really there. I felt like because I mean, like, he died either way. He would have died either way. He died already due to the fact of projecting this hologram of himself light years away. I just think I don't. As much as I don't like saying, as much as I don't like the fact that they killed off Luke Skywalker, I'm not going to say that I was entirely against the idea. Because Jedi Masters are mortal. They die. And I accepted that. Yoda died. Obi-Wan Kenobi died. Qui-Gon Jinn died. They all die. But it's how they die that I think matters. Yoda died being 900 years old, having passed on the knowledge necessary to prolong the Jedi Order. And he died the way I feel like the only way Yoda would have been able to go out. In his bed. Because Yoda's too badass to die in a fight.
Exactly.
Obi-Wan Kenobi died at the hands of his former student. Qui-Gon Jinn died at the hands of a Sith Lord. It's all deaths of Jedis, in most cases, are something badass, die in battle, or just die due to old age. I just can't really agree with how they killed off Luke in that matter. And honestly, I just hope something much grander comes out of it. Because Last Jedi just really didn't feel like that grand of a movie.
It felt like it was just setting up almost for the next movie. And I'm hoping, I have hope that the next movie will be good, because Star Wars is a great
franchise.
Yeah.
I have faith. I have high hopes. Moving on, we just finished, actually, the Netflix show Castlevania, based on the critically acclaimed, infamous Konami video games Castlevania of the same name. That started a long time ago, all the way back on retro games, and now finally, this past year, 2017, got their own Netflix show. And Zeta, what do you think?
Well, number one, I like vampires.
Of course.
So I was interested in Castlevania the first time I saw it advertised. Mm-hmm. Even though I've never played the game. Mm-hmm. I thought the show looked really interesting, and I like animation.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is Japanese or anything. But it has that feel.
Yeah, it's
and
anime.
I like it. It's anime.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like anime. So I think I'm anxious for more.
Yeah.
Really, that's like...
Me too.
That's my thing, because it wasn't that long. The episodes aren't that long, and there was only 5.
4.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See? There was only 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I need more.
Yeah. I hate how they call it a season. Season 1. 4 episodes, 25 minutes each, is not a season.
Yeah, if they were 2 hours each, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, yeah. Like, maybe if they called it, like, part 1 or something.
Yeah.
That would have been much better. Well, I know that Konami is a Japanese-based video game company.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the Castlevania games originate in Japan and carried over into America. So I think most likely, I assume that this series started in Japan and carried over to America. I mean, the next season might already be out in Japan. That's how that works, you know.
Right.
I have no idea. I haven't heard anything about when a new season's gonna come. if a new season even comes at all, the way Netflix has, been working their shows lately, we may or may not even get a second season.
Well, I really hope we do.
I really hope so too. From what I've seen, the show so far seems to be mostly based on the third Castlevania game, because that's the first game that features Trevor Belmont, the main character of the show, Alucard, Sypha. Those are all playable characters in that game. There's a fourth one named Grant, who's sort of like a hunchback, maybe.
Oh.
He can climb on walls. That might be a character for the second season, but I don't know. But what I think is really good about this show is that you don't need to have really any kind of history with the games to enjoy the show.
Not at all. Yeah, because I enjoy the show.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I kind of sympathize with Dracula.
Yeah, that's something that me knowing something about the games, they never really got across. Because with video games, at least mostly back then, it was all about good and evil, black and white. Here, they actually show you a side of Dracula that not something new or original, because we've seen these sides of Dracula before. In this instance, it's really heartbreaking in a sense that Dracula's wife, spoiler alert, Dracula's wife is murdered, basically in cold blood, burned at the stake for seemingly no other reason than she was studying science and deemed a witch. And Dracula just comes out and decides, you know what, the human race isn't worthy, I'm gonna kill them all. Kind of an extreme reaction, but a warranted one. I can see it. I can see why he went about doing that.
Right. He was heartbroken.
Yeah. It was really interesting how this show started with Dracula. It's like the story had to start with Dracula, have him as a main character, and then the rest of the show you don't even see Dracula. Like, you might see an image of him, but you don't see his physical form
exactly
in the next 3 episodes. I really liked the action. The action, I felt, was really, really intense. It was really hardcore. This is a very bloody show. They are not afraid to show you the gore. And I'm not very what's the word? I don't specialize in anime. I'm not very I don't know a lot about it. I haven't seen that many animes. I've only seen a few. This one, I would say, is just one of those animes that, even for someone that doesn't know a lot about anime, can come out and just grab you and take you on a wild ride. I really think that that's really interesting, because for the casual audience, it's hard to get into stuff that you're not really familiar with, stuff you're not really associated with, something you haven't really ever really given that much time of day, to suddenly just take you and throw all this stuff in your face, give you characters you actually kind of give a shit about, and have action that just looks amazing. It is so smooth, it's so fluent, it just gets in there and just slices you up, whips you about. It's amazing.
Literally, Trevor Belmont.
With his whip, he just
whips you about,
grabs me by the neck, takes me on a ride.
He's something else. I like his character a lot.
Me too. I didn't think I was gonna like him that much at first. And
he grows on you.
He really does. He really grows on you, because he does carry about this sense. He cares about this sense about him that he wants to do great things, but he feels like he's lost. He just feels like he's not worthy to do those great things.
And he drinks his problems away.
Mm-hmm. He
floats from town to town.
Yeah, it's like he's constantly running away from
himself.
I kind of think about him almost in a way, I equate him a little bit to Spider-Man. He's like someone that has all this power, all these skills, all this knowledge, and for a long time, after he his family was excommunicated, after he basically had no reason to keep going, he kind of just gave up. He kind of felt like, well, my talents are going to be wasted. There's no point in me doing anything. And he eventually figures out that he has a responsibility with all the skills he has, all the abilities he has, to use those and help the people that are, in danger of Dracula's armies. Similar to how Spider-Man, when he had his powers, when he first got them, and Uncle Ben died due to Spider-Man's negligence to stop a criminal,
yes,
resulted in Uncle Ben's death. Therefore, realizing I had a responsibility with my powers to use them, and because I didn't, someone died. And I kind of feel like that's kind of what Trevor is going about. He's like, I can help people, I should help people, otherwise these people are all going to go to shit. All these people are going to eat each other just trying to figure out how to stop Dracula's army.
So Trevor starts working with the speakers.
Uh-huh.
And I want to talk about the speakers.
Okay.
They're interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool how they're a tribe of people that are nomadic.
Mm-hmm.
And they pass their history down orally.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing that really bothers me is that Trevor begged and asked them to leave the city.
Yeah.
To save them, because the people in the city wanted to kill them, were coming to kill them. He told them that.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they knew he was right, they wouldn't leave.
Yeah. Because they felt like they had a responsibility.
And I get that, but how are they going to help if they're dead?
True.
That's like the one thing, that is the one thing that bothered me.
I think what the mindset is that even though they know they're going to die, at least they felt like they would have done something. They felt like they would have tried. Because I think about it like, what would have been better? To know you did everything you could to help and die in the process, or not do anything at all and just let everything go to shit and then live the rest of your life knowing you could have done something to help.
Right.
And I think that mentality alone is what got Trevor, to get back into the fight, to actually want to help these guys and help these people, because he was like, you know what, you're right, I would rather do everything I can that I'm capable of trying to help these people, even if that means dying in the process, as opposed to constantly go from town to town, watching city after city burn, watching constant people die, be slaughtered, and just sit back and watch, knowing I had the ability to do something about it,
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I don't... With the speakers, not all of them, they were an oral group, and the only one of them that knew, like, magic and stuff, combative magic, I guess, was Sypha.
That we know of.
That we know of, right. Like, she could have learned that from, like, her grandpa or something.
And there could be other ones that practice magic.
Yeah.
However, I wanted to also talk about her.
Yeah.
Because I think that is really cool.
Sypha?
Yeah. How she does, like, how out of nowhere she just, like, showcased her magical abilities, and they were strong.
Oh, yeah. I think, and my theory is that she is, like, even if we don't know if anybody else in the group has magical powers, my theory is that she's probably the most capable and strongest out of all of them, because why else would they have sent her down into the catacombs of the city, where there's likely to be traps and monsters and stuff?
Right.
You know, without the knowledge that she could kick somebody's ass. I think the last person to talk about is Alucard. Even though we only saw him in this last episode, like in this latter half of this episode, we obviously know that this guy is going to be playing a really big part.
Spoiler alert coming. This whole
podcast is a spoiler for anybody that hasn't seen any of the stuff we're talking about. Just know that I'm going to put a disclaimer in the beginning of the video.
We should have said this at the very beginning.
Whatever.
He's Dracula's son.
Yeah, I was when I was first watching this, I was wondering to myself, when is, because we saw a glimpse of it. We didn't see like him in like all his glory. We didn't get a very good picture of him, but we got a glimpse of his character in the first episode. Was it where he was trying to stop Dracula from unleashing his army, and Dracula defeated him, and he locked himself down in the catacombs to heal from his wounds in the battle. And I was wondering when that was going to come back into play, and I didn't really put two and two together that the sleeping warrior they were talking about in like this prophecy or whatever was Alucard. I didn't expect that. So when he did finally show back up, it kind of blew my mind. And just the fact that seeing this guy and seeing how powerful he is, it really makes me wonder how it made me wonder, how does someone like Sypha, who's only got like some magical spells, and Trevor Belmont, who's just got his whip and his sword and such, match up to someone who's essentially the half-life of Dracula, who has basically all the same powers as a vampire, super speed, enhanced strength, all this, that, and the other, toppled with the fact that he's got a badass sword. How does someone like that stack up to these people? And I think the introduction the fight he had with Trevor, was a good showcase of that. Just a comparison side by side of their abilities.
Right.
Because while it was evident that Alucard was strong enough and fast enough, in those regards, to be able to overpower Trevor, I think in those regards he's better than Trevor. Like, just in terms of his speed and strength, he's better than Trevor in that regard. But I think when it came to weaponry and overall combative skills, I think Trevor kind of had him beaten.
That's what I was going to say, the combative skills, because Trevor is trained.
Yeah.
He is a trained vampire hunter.
Yeah.
Like, when they were fighting, it was just insane how he knew that he was going to be right behind him. And he was ready. And you were right about the strength, because Trevor was, overpowered when he used his whip.
Yeah.
That famous whip that he's got.
Yeah.
He was overpowered, he was lured in. And I think it's really cool, though, how the three of them are going to team up.
Yeah, I'm really interested, because you have Alucard, who's got the strength and the speed, and knows whatever he knows about Dracula that could aid them in the fight. He's got like the physical prowess. You've got someone like Trevor, who's got the weapons, the combat skills. He's got the experience when it comes to fighting monsters, because that's all his family did, was fight monsters. And then you have Sypha, who's got like all these magical powers, fire, ice. I'm really excited to see what season 2 has to offer, because all we've gotten up to this point was just the building of the team, supposedly, to go and fight Dracula. Now I hope season 2 is them going to go and fight Dracula. I don't know if it's going to be another 4 episode season, and then they just kind of like stop right as they're about to go fight Dracula. I don't know. I hope not, because then they're going to make us wait another year until they conclude it. But what do you think is likely to happen if they even get around to a season 2?
Well, I'm hoping that season 2 is longer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that it does show them growing as a team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their struggles to get along because they're 3 very different people.
Mm-hmm.
Where they go, what they do, who they interact with, how they're going to combine their different skills in a battle against Dracula.
Oh, yeah.
And Dracula's army of demons.
It's going to be crazy.
But I hope season 2 actually shows the battle, because this show is really good about leaving episodes and the end of the season on like a cliffhanger note.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping it shows the battle, but maybe right after the battle's over, that can be their cliffhanger. You don't know exactly what the next move is. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you don't know if there's an enemy after Dracula.
But show the battle, please, Castlevania.
Last thing I wanted to talk about, honestly, in regards to Castlevania, was I really like the designs for the monsters. We didn't get to see too many of them. There were the vampires. There's Dracula. There's Alucard. That's like standard vampire stuff. I really liked the design of the Night Horde, I guess was the general term that they used to describe them. Those like vampire demon things that came down at night to slaughter everybody.
Like a living gargoyle.
Yeah, basically. I really liked those. I really liked the savagery that they had in their design, the basicness in their design. I really, really liked how there was them, and then you had like this other guy, like this bigger, I guess, version of them who lacked wings, but had a few more features, like more eyes. He was blue instead of red.
He had spikes sticking out of his back. He was kind of like a wolf in a way.
In a way, yeah. And he spoke.
Yeah.
And like
he was like a super demon.
Yeah, like I like the fact that instead of, it's interesting for them to take monsters that were already established in mythologies and stuff and then twist them or redesign them to fit this world. But I also think it's interesting how they can take like the concept of demon and then just expand it to whatever design they want. Because I have no fucking idea what that was.
It's the world of Wallachia.
Exactly. It's true, real stuff. And the Cyclops, probably my favorite design so far, because that was like the biggest it got so far. That was like the biggest monster that we've gotten to see, the grandest scope of a creature.
It was honestly like, I thought it was cool how he turns people into stone.
Yeah.
Like, it had a Medusa vibe to it.
Yeah, had like it.
And that's like really cool because Medusa and Cyclops, you know, a lot of times they come from Greek mythology. So they kind of fuse those two together.
Yeah, he carries that Greek myth with him.
Right, even though he's not your traditional Cyclops. He was just a big old guy with one eye, and he's going to hit you over the head with something and kill you.
Yeah. With that in mind, it kind of makes me wonder, you know, what of the future? Like, what if in season 2 we get like a minotaur or something that shoots lasers out of his eyes? Or has
a talking shark.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like just anything.
Right.
Like, they could have any classical creature just ever so twisted in a way, you know?
A unicorn that's a demon.
Yeah, like
a unidemon.
A unidemon. Like, it looks like a unicorn. As soon as you get close to it, it like turns all demonized. Its head spins around, it pukes in your face.
Pukes rainbows in your face.
So yeah, really excited for season 2. I really like the show. Really recommend it. The last thing I wanted to talk about with you was you and I both recently saw The Hateful Eight, and I really liked it. What did you think?
I loved it.
I loved it too.
Alright, number one, I'm going to start out with I love Tarantino.
Absolutely.
Tennessee.
Yes.
Go Vols.
Oh my god.
Love Tarantino.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal director.
Really is.
I really enjoy most of his movies. I really enjoy all of his movies.
Yeah.
But it's like there's certain ones that I rank higher than other ones. Like, everybody really likes the Kill Bill series. I'm not gonna lie. Tarantino's works, that's probably on the bottom of his works for me. Still great movies.
Mm-hmm.
But this was something else. I really liked the feel of this movie.
Me too. I really liked just the fact that it was really isolated. It felt really closed in.
Mm-hmm.
It surprisingly just had this you don't really know where this is going kind of vibe.
And that's like something you don't really get in movies anymore.
Mm-mm.
You didn't know where it was going. We didn't know who was doing what, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it had some great actors in it for sure.
Oh, God, phenomenal actors. Samuel L. Jackson, I know people are going to be like, oh, he's constantly used in Tarantino films. He's all over the place. He's in every movie these days. But, like...
There's a reason!
Exactly. Come on. He is a phenomenal actor, especially when he's given the script written from Tarantino. Any movie Samuel Jackson's in that's a Tarantino flick, he owns it. I mean, God, you've got Pulp Fiction, you've got Django, you've got Jackie Brown, and now you've got this. His performance in this is so spot on for me. I really love it. And I also really love the fact that all the characters in this movie, I think there's a reason they call it the Hateful Eight. All the characters in this movie are characters that are kind of people you love to hate. They're all kind of hateable.
They're people you don't want to fuck with.
Yeah.
They really are.
Kurt Russell's character you don't want to fuck with.
I mean, you really just don't want to with any of them. Like, you've got that crazy bitch. Alright?
Yeah.
Number one. Everybody knows you stay away from crazy bitches.
Well, what was her name? Like,
Daisy.
Daisy Dukes or something?
Not Daisy Dukes.
That's the Dukes of Hazzard girl, my bad.
It was a D, though.
Yeah.
It was a D. You know what? I'm gonna Google it right now.
Oh, I've already got it pulled up.
Oh, alright.
It was... Daisy Domergue.
Domergue. I remember now because they referred to her as Domergue a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because while she is a woman, and her name is Daisy, very feminine name,
Mm-hmm.
she is just as hateful as all the men in the room, and they just refer to her as Domergue almost to kind of like put her on their level.
Or bitch.
Yeah, they did refer to her as bitch, because
Yeah.
she is a bitch, but...
Kurt Russell constantly was like, you're not a lady.
Like I was saying, Domergue, you know, just kind of like to take away that feminine aspect of Daisy.
Mm-hmm.
Where they were kind of treating her like, hey, you're just as hateful as us.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So Kurt Russell, his character, pretty upset.
Yeah. Michael Madsen. He played the Joe Gage character. He was the character riding in the corner.
Yeah.
I love that actor. I think he's really funny just because he always like looks into the camera like squints his eyes, sticks out his bottom lip a lot. You don't really know if he's actually being serious or not.
Right.
I love that guy. I loved God, what was it? Tim Roth as Oswaldo Mowbray.
Oswaldo, I'm the hangman.
I loved... Now, honestly, like, I loved how, like I said before, the movie constantly keeps you guessing. Like, you really, every single, like, new development that comes about, you really didn't see that coming. You really didn't know that's what was happening. Because when it came to Samuel Jackson, when it came to Major Warren, John Ruth, and Sheriff Chris Mannix getting to the haberdashery in the middle of that blizzard or whatever, and then having met all those other people, the Bob, the fake Mexican dude.
Yes.
The Oswaldo Mowbray, Joe Gage, the General Sandy Smithers, old guy sitting in the chair. You had all those people, and I loved the setup for it all. Like, you just didn't know who was the bad guy, who was really against everybody, who was in on it, who wasn't in on it, who was innocent, who was guilty.
Right.
I just can't get over how I was constantly thrown for a loop.
I feel like I knew something fishy was going on because I couldn't tell who it was. Mm-hmm. Everyone was suspicious to me. Uh-huh. Obviously, besides the group that showed up there together.
Yeah.
I did not think obviously, I knew they weren't in on it.
Yeah.
But when we met those other people, I wasn't sure who was who or what was what.
I think the music really, because when usually in movies they set you up with this new group of characters that are supposed to be the bad guys, but you don't know yet. They typically don't do anything in the movie that tips you off quite yet, because otherwise they're nice characters and all this, that, and the other. But the music, I noticed, was really foreboding. As soon as they got to the haberdashery, everything was really, really foreboding. Like, you knew something bad was going to happen as soon as they got there. You didn't know what, you didn't know with who, and you just had no idea what the hell was going to go down. I loved that.
What'd you think about Channing Tatum's character showing up?
That was probably like the biggest thing I didn't expect, because when they introduced it, it literally went from everybody that was in the room, you knew everybody was in the room that was there, and suddenly the camera pans down through the floor panels, and suddenly there's just a guy with guns pointed up through the floor and shoots Samuel Jackson in the dick. And then it goes into this whole spiel about how these current events came to be. I was just amazed, because I had no idea that was going to happen. It builds suspense. It keeps you guessing, because there was always constantly something happening.
Yeah.
It wasn't just they got there and then suddenly this bullshit went off. It was like they got there, somebody poisoned the coffee. They got there. No, it wasn't somebody who poisoned the coffee first. It was they got there. Samuel Jackson met like this old guy and told him a story about how he made his son
suck his cock. I was just about to bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
That was brutal.
That was just, oh my god.
Obviously, I don't think it was true. I think he was just really trying to get the old man to shoot at him so he could kill him. Because he hated that old man.
Well, here's the thing.
Because that old man cost his troops a lot of lives in Louisiana.
That's true.
That racist old man.
That is true. That is correct. That you know what, you could be right about that, because what I noticed typically from everybody is that anybody's story or anything like that, you know, like, even when it came to the people that were obviously the criminals, you really didn't know if anybody's backstory they gave you was true or not. And I think that was first showcased when Samuel Jackson had that letter from Lincoln that, you know, he held as true. up until the point where it was revealed it wasn't true. He said it was a lie. And I think that kind of laid the groundwork for...
What else are we lying about?
Exactly. You didn't know if the guy that was claiming to be a sheriff was actually a sheriff or not. Because it's not like he had paperwork or anything like that.
But it's funny that he really was, like...
Yeah. You didn't know if Samuel Jackson really did kill that guy or not.
I think he killed him, but I don't think he made him suck his cock.
I have no idea.
I think he said that to piss him off.
I mean, who knows? Because like he said, he really fucked that guy up because he was that guy's son.
Right.
But whether or not any of that really happened or not, I think it's just up in the air. Like, you have, like, for instance, the what I like to think about is, remember when Daisy Domergue was like, we have a whole band of people in Red
15
Rock.
15 men.
15 men or some shit like that are going to be here by morning. And they're going to surround the place. And they're going to kill you all anyway. We don't know if that was true or not.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, she was probably lying just to save her own ass.
That's what the whole movie was about.
Saving their ass. I honest to God...
I'll tell you someone who should not have died.
Who?
The man who drove the carriage.
Opie?
Yes!
Yeah, he was... I think out of everybody, he was the most innocent one.
He didn't do anything.
He just drove the carriage. He just drove the stagecoach. That was kind of...
unfortunate luck on his part.
Yeah, I mean, out of all of them, I didn't hate Obi. There wasn't really anything about Obi to hate. Like, with everyone else, there was probably a little something to dislike about them, you know?
They're assholes.
Yeah, they're all assholes.
Cocky assholes.
They were all just not good people down to their soul.
Right.
Obi probably was a really good guy. Probably had a wife. Kids. I mean, I have no idea. He could have been like a fucking serial murderer down in Texas or something like that. He was just up in the Great Mountains just trying to escape the law. I mean, I have no idea. But my biggest thing I really enjoyed about the movie, you know, the acting, the story was great, the not really that much action to say it was great, but the suspense was killer. The brutality of it all really, really astounds me. I mean, with any Quentin Tarantino movie, that's like one of the staples. It really shines here just because of the few people that are here, the isolation, and just the fact that at any given second it feels like one of these people is gonna fucking blow their top and start shooting people. The biggest thing I thoroughly enjoyed was that at the beginning of the movie, when the credits were rolling, was that they drew major attention to this is the 8th film of Quentin Tarantino. Like, it's such a big thing. Because think about it. Who really says, oh, we're going to celebrate the 8th thing we've got? Who celebrates, you usually do like the 10th or the 25th anniversary, you know?
Right.
Something like that. But the 8th stands out to me only because they drew so much attention to it. And that makes me think they're doing that because it's like they're saying, this is only the 8th movie by Quentin Tarantino, and it's this fucking awesome. Imagine what the movies he's gonna do later are gonna be like.
He's just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Everything he does is gold.
Yeah. And I feel like the more he progresses as a writer, the more things and more ideas he gets going forward, the more I really feel like he's going to just hit that magnus opum that's going to blow the entirety of the world away. Because I can agree with you by saying Kill Bill is, while in my opinion, a pretty okay like movie, compared to his other works, I don't think they're that great as movies. I think
Django's what really got me into Tarantino.
Yeah. Django was really good.
And then you showed me Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction I think Pulp Fiction's a lot like Hateful Eight in the sense that it's not a big action movie.
Right.
It's one of those movies that is more focused on these characters. And like the other Quentin Tarantino movies are very much focused on the characters, but there's more of an emphasis on the action and the
pertaining
character,
to the characters.
Pertaining to the character, the characters taking these actions, and then the movies like Pulp Fiction and Hateful Eight are more so about the characters and the circumstances they find themselves in.
Now, while something about Tarantino movies is that they're long.
Uh-huh.
And they don't really feel that long. The Hateful Eight did not feel that long.
Because you were so immersed in the story.
Right, and that is something that I don't get that often. You know, I want to check my phone, I want to do this, I want to do that while I'm watching a movie. But with Tarantino, and especially The Hateful Eight, I was on the edge of my seat. I was wanting to see what was going to happen next.
Oh, yeah. There's not a whole lot more we can say about The Hateful Eight. We can sit here and just jerk it off all day long. But I wanted to finish out by asking the question, in relation to Django specifically, Tarantino has only done the 2 Western movies.
Mm-hmm.
Only the 2 cowboy movies. Of the 2, which one do you consider the better movie?
Oh, Lord, you can't ask me that question. There's different things about both of them that are good.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I watched The Hateful Eight so recently that I really liked it.
Yeah.
It's fresh on my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But I've watched Django multiple times. I love Django Unchained.
Yeah.
And Leonardo DiCaprio is phenomenal in that movie.
Yeah.
I love the true story about the scene where he cuts his hand open.
Oh, yeah.
That was real, and he just kept acting because he didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He should have won an Oscar for that. But, it's fine. He got one for The Revenant.
Yeah.
But, I think I'm going to have to go with Django. What about you?
Now, I too saw Django, and I really like Django. And while I am very much a fan of Django, for me, I think I have to go with The Hateful Eight. And my reasons are, with Django, I think I have to put it like this. Like, with the Django character, it was strangely, like, you saw the stuff that was going on in his head. You knew what his goals were. You knew where he wanted to go, what he wanted to do. But I really felt like a lot of the movie, he was just an observer. He was definitely part of the action. He was definitely doing a lot of stuff. There were action scenes where he was just the guy going around killing everybody. But a majority of the time, I think this was just part and partial to the fact that he was a slave in the movie. He was just an observer. And, he did have his moments where he conversated, he talked, he gave his ideas, his thoughts or whatever. But most of the time, I really felt like he was just a doer. He was more of the person that didn't care for words, was just an action taker. I understand that, and that's fine. But I also liked the characters that, let you know more what's going on in their head. Not just by talking at you, but by, maybe telling a story combined with their actions. With Django, I felt like he was a character too involved with actions as opposed to verbality. And while that's not a bad thing, I enjoy the movies for separate reasons, which is why it's hard to compare the two, because even though they are both westerns, they're almost completely different movies. Django is an action film. Hateful Eight is a suspenseful thriller.
Exactly. They're different.
Yeah. And in my opinion, Django. Sorry, that took me like a second. I had a brain fart. I was looking at this list of all his Tarantino's movies. Django, in my opinion, is God. I was about to say his best action film. I would have to go back and watch Kill Bill, to be honest, because that movie was just based on old action films. But I definitely do think it is a very, very well put together film. I guess just for me personally, I don't think it's his best, one of his best. But then again, all of his movies are great, so it's just really hard to put that on a scale. But for me personally, I think Hateful Eight just blows it out of the water. Like I said before, they're two completely different movies. I like Hateful Eight because it appeals to what I like to see in movies. I love character-driven stuff. I love confrontations between characters, character interactions. I love all that shit. With Django, there wasn't all that much there. It was more about action and stuff. But both are great movies. Hateful Eight, great movie. If you haven't seen it, get off your ass, go see it, sign up for Netflix, get a 3-month free trial. This isn't a sponsorship. Just go see The Hateful Eight.
Mm-hmm.
Babe, any last words?
Tarantino's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, I hope everyone has a happy new year. Welcome to 2018. Let's look forward to more great content going in. Have yourselves a good night and be safe.